Hi everyone, it's Daria. Welcome back to my channel. And on this momentous Sunday, if I've managed to plan this video and upload it at the right time, is the day in which the season 2 Euphoria finale will be premiering. And I don't know about you guys, I'm fucking stressed. To celebrate this moment, I wanted to make a Euphoria-themed video, and I figured I should cash out on the Euphoria content right now because we're likely not getting season 3 until like 2024 or 2025. Today I'm going to be recommending books based on your favorite Euphoria character. There have been a lot of creators who have made similar videos. I will link them all down below, and hopefully their faces and names are popping up on my screen right now. Please go give them and their Euphoria-themed recommendations some love. I may recommend a book because I feel like there's a character in the book who really exemplifies the Euphoria character I'm talking about. There may be a smaller subplot that goes on that I feel connects to the Euphoria character. Sometimes I'm going based purely off of vibes that the book gives off. Basically, long story short, if you feel like the recommendation I gave for your favorite character is not really accurate, then that's totally fine. I hope that there is another video, like I mentioned down below, that has a book that is more to your tastes. And now, without any further ado, let's get into the recommendations. We are starting off, of course, with our main character, our leading lady, Rue Bennett, played by Zendaya. And for this recommendation, I'm actually going to throw it over to my friend, Kat.
We're going to take a break from Daria's wonderful presentation of books that Euphoria characters are represented by. Rue's up to me. Rue. You know where I'm going. If you know, you know. Rue's book has to be, in my mind, My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. Not only does this book encompass another unreliable, unlikable sometimes narrator who turns to substances to deal with her inner turmoil, her inner issues, grief, loss, mental health struggles, etc. But this narrator is also very similar to Rue just in demeanor, in my opinion. The way that she is sometimes funny, sometimes very likable, but then she will do things that are not necessarily things that a good person would do. Something that in season 2 is being discussed quite frequently is that Rue is not a good person all the time. And I think that is the same for the unnamed narrator of this book. She is someone who you can sympathize with, maybe even relate to, but you also are able to recognize that the things that she's doing, the things that she's saying, the things that she's thinking in her head, the way that she's handling herself and the world around her, not always the greatest. It's crafted well enough, it's written well enough, the character is well enough represented that there, to me, is still redeemable qualities, something to care about, care for, root for, etc. And that is the same for Rue. And so that is why I would say, Rue, this unnamed narrator, the connection is there. Thank you for having me. You've been a good crowd. Thank you for having me.
Next up we have Jules, and if Jules is your favorite character, I have a feeling that you're really going to like Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? You know what I said about vibes? I just feel like this book gives off Jules vibes. I feel like Jules would definitely be, along with Lexi by the way, they would definitely be part of Sally Rooney Nation. And I picked this book in particular because I feel like the overarching theme is hope. This book follows two really close friends, Alice and Eileen, as both of them try to figure out their lives. They're both in their 20s, and both of them are also trying to navigate these new romantic relationships in their lives. The two women are constantly writing letters to each other back and forth, constantly talking about, climate change and politics and what it means to exist as a human and what we owe to each other. I think the underlying message of this book is also a value of Jules, which is taking care of and forgiving and just loving the people in your life. And this book shows that sometimes loving people is hard, forgiving them is hard, being in a relationship is hard, but we keep doing it anyway because that's just kind of the point of being alive. Loving the people in your life, showing them that love each and every day, doing your best to uplift them and care for them, even when you make mistakes, even when they make mistakes. And I think that Jules represents that kind of love. No matter the mistakes that she makes, no matter the mistakes that Rue makes, Jules is always going to be there for Rue, and she's always going to love Rue. And I think that kind of devotion is exemplified in this book. Next up we have Nate. Just Satan himself, the devil's spawn. I hate this man. And if your favorite character is Nate, I'm going to very optimistically assume that you want to see him get his just desserts. So in that vein, allow me to recommend Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. Now this book is all about the Nates of the world getting exactly what's coming to them. So this book follows two sisters, Claire and Lydia, who have not spoken or been in each other's lives since their younger sister, Julia, went missing. And these two sisters have sort of lived their life in emotional limbo ever since this happened, not really being able to move forward. And then there is another disappearance in their hometown of another girl, and it very much mirrors what happens to Julia. So now the two sisters are reuniting and trying to piece together the connection and figure out once and for all what exactly happened to their sister. I'm going to be totally upfront. There are a lot of very disturbing things in this book. I'm talking murder, rape, just a lot of detailed gore. It's very difficult to read, and without spoiling too much, because obviously this is a thriller and a mystery and I don't want to give too much away, the journey that these two sisters go on, it's at once about them and repairing their relationship, but also about exposing the ways in which men in positions of power use that power to execute really extreme violence against women. It reveals this really harsh truth that I think a lot of us women know, which is that oftentimes men in positions of power are not there to protect us. If anything, they are the real dangers. Honestly, this recommendation, it feels like it's more like if you hate Nate, because basically, like I said, this book is all about the Nates of the world getting exactly what's coming to them, and it's very satisfying to read. The next recommendation is for all my fellow Maddy stans out there, and this is really the recommendation that inspired this whole video, and that recommendation is Circe by Madeline Miller. When it comes to Circe, the character, as well as Maddy, I feel like they both have this similar thing where externally they may appear to be one thing, but internally there's something a lot more complex. I'm not sure if you guys know who Circe is, but she is a character from the Odyssey, and all that we really know about her is that she is this witch that lured Odysseus and his men onto her island. She spent like a couple months boning Odysseus and turned all of his men into pigs, and she doesn't really have a lot of depth, besides being a witch, kind of scary, sexual, and, you know, petty and dangerous. And I feel like on the surface, a lot of people might say the same things about Maddy. She can be very intimidating. If you didn't know her, you'd probably be scared of her. But the thing about Maddy, as well as Circe, is that they are so much more than just that hard exterior. This season especially, we get to see that Maddy, while not being a nice person, is a very kind and compassionate person. And if you're part of her circle, if you're a friend of hers and she cares about you, she will do anything for you. Which is why when she is betrayed, similarly to Circe, she's not going to take that lightly. She is going to take an attack on her and the ones that she loves very seriously, and she will retaliate in kind, if not worse. So in this book, Madeline Miller reimagines the story of Circe and follows her all the way from her infancy, being born as the daughter of a titan and a nymph. We watch her as she interacts with a lot of very recognizable Greek figures, and she plays a really big role in a lot of these very familiar myths. And Madeline Miller does this great job of taking these very well-known stories and well-known characters and just breaking them down and making them more human and realistic and relatable. I just see a lot of similarities between Circe and the way her story is told in this book and Maddy's story arc in the last season. I'm very intrigued to see what goes down between Maddy and Cassie in this final episode. Whatever it is, it's going to be explosive. Speaking of Cassie, I will go ahead and share my recommendation for her character, which is My Dark Vanessa. Now this one, I could admit, even to myself, it is a little bit of a stretch, but just follow me down this path and I'll explain, okay? Cassie is a character whom, in the first season, I would say was definitely like a top 3 character for me. But in this past season, it's gotten to the point where, though I love her and I sympathize with her and I want her to get out of the situation that she's in, I also fully acknowledge that she's made some really shitty decisions and that she has to reap the consequences of those decisions. Similarly, the main character in this book does a lot of questionable things, and yet at the same time, you can't help but have this like nugget of sympathy and understanding. This book follows a woman named Vanessa, obviously, and we flip back and forth between her teenagers at school and her adulthood. And when she was a teenager, Vanessa was groomed and abused by a teacher over a period of many years. And now, about 20 years later, Vanessa is still dealing with the fallout of that relationship, I hesitate to call it a relationship because it was just an abuse of power. It impacts her everyday life, especially because she is still in contact with this man and still has a kind of relationship with him. And not to give too many spoilers, but Vanessa eventually finds out that there are a lot of women who are making similar accusations. And let's just say she doesn't handle this in the best way. And this book is just so hard. It is so hard to piece together how to feel about Vanessa, because on the one hand, she is a victim, but on the other hand, she also has instances in which you could call her a perpetrator. And as a reader, the same way in which I am torn about how to feel about Vanessa, I feel similarly about Cassie, especially this season. Every single time Cassie crosses the line, and she has crossed many lines this season, throughout this entire season, I watch Cassie do the stupid shit that she does, and on one hand, I just want to shake her and be like, what the fuck are you doing? And on the other hand, I understand where she's coming from and why she's doing these things, because she just has absolutely no self-esteem and self-worth based on what happened with her father in the past and all these romantic relationships that she's been in and the way that men have only ever valued her for her looks. When it comes to both Vanessa in this book and Cassie in the show, it's like, I understand, but I can't defend you anymore. The next character I want to share a recommendation for is Lexi, the breakout star of this past season. I feel like even last season, everybody really liked Lexi, but she wasn't like a main part of the cast. But this season, she steals the fucking show every single time she's on screen. This past episode, the play episode, just iconic. So for all you Lexi fans out there, I want to recommend Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Now this book has a lot of themes and deals with a lot of issues that I feel like we see a lot in Lexi and her character story. There's a really big focus on family, fucked up sibling dynamics, and the importance of point of view. In this book we follow the Lee family, and we open up when the perfect favorite child of the family, Lydia, is found dead. And this death impacts every single family member in a different way. We are constantly jumping back and forth between the past and the present and getting the point of view and story of every single family member. And what's so fascinating about this book is as you are reading these different points of view of all the family members, the mother, the father, the elder brother, the younger sister of Lydia, you are interpreting the world around them in the same way the character is. So if the mother says something that is offensive and rude to the older brother, you're going to see it as offensive and rude when you're in the brother's head. And then when you switch to the mother's point of view, you understand why she said that thing and why she might think that it was an appropriate thing to say to her son. In the latest episode of Euphoria with Lexi's play, we get to see all these major events that involve other characters through Lexi's eyes. And we can't really know if what Lexi is remembering is accurate. We don't know if that conversation between her and Rue at her father's funeral actually went down like that. We see that Cassie and Lexi remember their father in drastically different ways. Cassie romanticized him, and Lexi saw him for what he was with all of his flaws and mistakes. This book also features a strained sibling relationship, which of course mirrors the one between Cassie and Lexi. In this book, we have the perfect child, Lydia, and her older problem child brother, Nath. Because their parents favor one kid over the other, that creates a rift between the two siblings. When it comes to Cassie and Lexi, while I feel like maybe neither of them is considered the perfect child and the fuck up, I would say that there's definitely resentment between them, and for sure there is a rift, especially after the play. I don't know what that fallout is going to be like, but I'm kind of excited to see it, not gonna lie. I love a bit of drama. The next recommendation I have is for Cat. And listen, I could go on a 20-minute rant about the way Cat has been written out of the season, written out of the show. I don't understand it. I don't like it. Cat was one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in the previous season, and now just dust. Dust mites everywhere. So this recommendation is based a lot on Cat from season 1, and my recommendation is the book Kill the Boy Band. Now this is a really weird and kind of twisted book, and I love it. And I have a feeling that people who like Cat will also love it. Now we find out about Cat in the first season that she is really big into like fandom culture. She was really big into One Direction and writing One Direction fan fiction. And this book is kind of an ode to the One Direction fandom. In it, we have our main character who stalks this boy band who is basically meant to be One Direction, and she follows them to her hotel. And then things go awry when one of the band members ends up dead. And we're trying to piece together exactly how this happened, who was the one who killed him, who was part of this plan, and it's just this really fun darkly humorous book. If you were a fan of One Direction, I would say circa 2011 to 2013 especially, you are going to get such a kick out of this book. And I feel like this is a book that Kat, it might even be something that she wrote herself, but it would definitely be something that if it existed in the Euphoria world, she would pick up and read. The next recommendation is for all of my Fez fans, which I feel like are just all Euphoria watchers. Like if there was a Venn diagram of people who watch Euphoria and people who love Fez, the Venn diagram would just be a circle. And for Fez, I'm going to recommend Ian McEwan's Atonement. If you want, you can go ahead and just watch the movie with Keira Knightley and James McAvoy. I would not blame you, but the book is also like really fucking good. The main story surrounding this book deals with the sexual assault of a child. So if that is not something that you want to touch right now, don't pick up this book. Now, this book is all about a pair of star-crossed lovers, Cecilia and Robbie. They are from entirely different worlds, different classes, but they fall in love. And as soon as their relationship begins, Cecilia's little sister fucks it up for them. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see the connection? I feel like that very basic summary of this book's plot, because of course there's more nuance to it than that. It really mirrors what is going on between Fez and Lexi and the way that Cassie kind of fucks it up for them. Now, what Cassie did in the show is not as bad as what the little sister Bryony did in this book. It's not as life-altering and just horrible, at least not yet. I don't know, the last episode may change things. But I think that there are enough similarities that people who enjoy Fez, and especially the Fez and Lexi romance, will also enjoy this book. And just prepare your tissues in advance, because this one hurts. It does. I'm sorry. Hopefully, that is not indicative of what happens between Fez and Lexi in the future. I don't know if I just signed their relationship death warrant by recommending this. The final recommendation I want to share with you all is for my Gia fans. Now, I was intrigued by Gia in the first season, but I think especially in this season, I just want to know more about her. I really hope that we get an entire episode dedicated to her in the third season. Now, this recommendation, it's another kind of stretch, but once again, just go with me, okay? The recommendation is the heart principle. Do not be confused or lulled into a false sense of security based on the cute, adorable romance cover. This book deals with a lot of triggering subjects, including grief, the terminal illness of a loved one, and just the really painful experience of having to take care of a loved one and family member as they are dying, and what that can do to you as a person. Now, I want to recommend this book for Gia because I feel like for lack of a better way of describing it, the fucked up family dynamics in this book kind of mirror what's going on with Rue and Gia and their mother Leslie. Our main character in the book neglects herself in order to care for her family and is often forgotten about or just feels used by her family members. And I feel like in this past season, we really get to see the ways in which Rue's addiction, her relationship with her mother, that very strained relationship, how it all affects Gia. Gia is similarly forgotten about. Her problems are pushed to the side, and she feels betrayed by Rue. She feels used by Rue. And it's really hard. It's really difficult to see the ways in which Gia is impacted, but then also dismissed. Like, oh, Gia doesn't have anything going on. Like, she's fine. She's the good kid. And I think with this season, we're finally starting to realize that maybe that's not true. You know, maybe Gia is really struggling here. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I cannot imagine being in her situation and not having some kind of trauma. I just really hope we get to see more of Gia in the next season. Like I said, I'm crossing my fingers, pulling for that Gia-centric episode. So there you have it, you guys. Those are all the books I have to recommend to you guys based on your favorite Euphoria character. I know I left some people out of the mix. Ethan, McKay, Elliot. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough time and I didn't really have a good idea of what to recommend for those characters. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know who your favorite characters on Euphoria are. I love you all very dearly, and I'm wishing you a happy final Euphoria Sunday. Bye.